Several businesses have raised concerns about the possible impact of geopolitical tensions between the Philippines and China on the country's bilateral trade relations. Here to give us his insights on this matter, we have with us live via Zoom George Manzano, Associate Professor of School of Economics at the University of Asia and the Pacific. Good morning, Prof. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Diego. Thank you for having me here.
Okay, Prof, let's get right to it. As mentioned, some businesses have expressed concern over how geopolitical tensions between the Philippines and China are affecting bilateral trade. Now, is there a cause for concern?
There's always a cause for concern, especially when trade is involved. Trade, we know, is good for countries. And so if there's going to be some tensions that will spill over into trade sanctions or trade disturbances, it will be bad for both partners, the Philippines and China, for that matter. And if we go back to some historical developments, that may occur, especially there could be some issues with respect to non-tariff barriers, making it difficult for products to access the markets of both partners, especially in China in the past when we had issues with the bananas.
And Prof, just to explain to our viewers now, how important of a trade partner really is China?
Well, China is a very important trade partner for the Philippines. First of all, it's our number one source of our imports, and it is the third market for our exports. When it comes to relative importance, of course, trade is important for both, but trade is more important. Trade with China is more important to us than would we Philippines be to China. China is we import that China accounts for around in 2022 like 20% of our total imports, and it is our number three, 13.9 or 14% of our total exports last year went to China. China, on the other hand, basically we are, I think, China's imports, our share in China's total imports is less than 1% in 2022, and our share in China's exports is less than 2% of their total exports.
Okay.
To that extent, you can say China is more important to us than we to China when it comes to trade issues. Now, China is also important in the sense that our number one imports from China would be electronics and machineries, and which our number one, I think, exports to China would be the same, except that in order to export our electronics, we need to import the parts and components. And so these raw materials, mainly parts and components, will be, China is a very important source for all those products. And if we curtail their supply from China, it will compromise also our level of exports to China and other parts of the world.
Given what you just said, Prof, now that how important China is to us, now can we afford moves like trade sanctions? For example, should China react negatively against the admin's US pivot, considering the competitiveness of Chinese products in the global market?
It would be difficult. Usually trade sanctions work if you are a large country or a large player. Either that or you have influence on other partners for China to follow your lead. However, if you're not a very big player, you're a small player in the economy, it will be very difficult to have sanctions because if you're a small player, then some other supply could basically substitute for your supply. So in that sense, it's relatively it's a big versus small type of importance that may not play in our favor.
Okay, and now given the current geopolitical landscape, what are the considerations for the Philippines in diversifying its trade portfolio, and what alternative markets are suggested by economists and experts in the field?
Well, the first thing is that we have to improve our investment climate, investment attractiveness. As we know, as a result of the U.S. and China tensions, many multinational companies are deliberating and embarking on what we call the China Plus One strategy. in which they may keep their investments in China, but in order to diversify the risk, should there be tensions, especially between China and the US, which is in the midst of a not really all-out trade war, but war in terms of trade technology, they opt to go to sub-third countries. And for this, the beneficiary, one of the main beneficiaries is Vietnam.
Okay.
To the extent that we can get a piece of this investment flow potentially going out of China in the coming years, that will be good for us. No? So instead of relying much on China's raw material, we could produce it ourselves through the raw material. But China still remains to be uh, the source of choice because it's very competitive, and if we have to replace China from other sources, it could mean that these other sources, the reason why we're importing from China is because China gives us the best price. And it could have impact on price levels in the Philippines as well as the inflation, which we are grappling at the moment.
Thank you very much, Prof, for joining us and for your time and insights. That was George Manzano, Associate Professor of School of Economics at the University of Asia and the Pacific. Good morning.
Thank you.